The Pacific Ocean has no memory. It swallows ships and men in history without a ripple, and the surface returns to a perfect indifferent blue. I have spent 50 years trying to forget what lies beneath that blue. My name is Silas Thorne. In 1888, I was the first mate aboard the whaler Oshana out of Nantucket. We were a dying breed, chasing a dying trade. Kerosene was already killing the market, but there was still money in spermaceti oil if you had the stomach for the work. We were 2 years into a 3-year voyage, hunting the deep grounds off the Bonin Islands, south of Japan. We were hard men, seasoned by salt and blood, used to the butchery of giants. But we were not prepared for the thing that hunted us. Before we continue, please make sure you leave a like and let us know where you are watching from. Thanks. The Oshana was a grim ship, her decks forever stained black with the grease of the try. Works her timbers soaked in the smell of rendering fat. Our captain, Elias Vance, was a man who seemed carved from teak. He didn't speak much, and when he did, it was usually to order a course correction or a flogging. He drove us hard. The hold was only half full, and he refused to turn for home until we rode low in the water. In late September, the ocean changed. We entered a stretch of water the charts left blank. The currents were strange here, cold fingers of water rising from the abyss that dropped the surface temperature by 10 degrees in a single watch. The color of the sea shifted from deep indigo to a sickly, opaque slate, and the silence fell. Whalers know the ocean is noisy. There are birds, the splash of fish, the blow of porpoises, but for 3 days we saw nothing. No albatross trailed our wake, no flying fish skittered across the bow. It was a dead zone. The crew grew restless. Sailors are superstitious. They read omens in the shape of clouds and the behavior of rats, and the rats on the Oshana were hiding. On the 4th day, the lookout in the crosstrees hailed the deck, "White water, starboard bow." We rushed to the rail. It wasn't a live whale, it was a carcass, a massive bull sperm whale, easily 70 feet long, floating belly up. But it looked wrong. It was pale, drained of blood. We lowered a boat to investigate, thinking to salvage the teeth, or perhaps the spermaceti if the rot hadn't set in deep. I went down with the cooper and 2 oarsmen. As we rowed closer, the smell hit us. It wasn't the sweet, cloying stench of decomposition. It was the smell of raw copper and musk. When we came alongside the beast, the cooper gasped and crossed himself. The whale hadn't died of sickness or age. It had been bitten in half. I do not mean it was chewed on. I mean a single catastrophic force had sheared through the spine, the blubber, and the muscle just below the dorsal fin. The bite radius was impossible. I laid my oar across the wound. It measured 15 feet across. The bone of the spine, thick as a tree trunk, was snapped clean, showing the marrow. And embedded in the remaining blubber of the flank was a tooth. It was triangular, serrated, and black as obsidian. It was the size of a shovel blade. I dug it out with my knife. It was heavy, fossilized yet sharp enough to shave with. I brought it back to Captain Vance. He held it in his calloused hand, turning it over. He didn't say a word. He just looked out at the slate gray horizon with a new tension in his jaw. "Keep a sharp lookout," he finally said. "There's a big shark out there. Maybe a great white grew fat." I didn't argue, but I knew great whites didn't grow to the size of ships. 2 days later, the lookout screamed again. Blow, dead ahead. A spout of mist rose from the water, thick and low. It didn't look like the diagonal spray of a sperm whale or the heart-shaped blow of a right whale. It was a singular explosive exhalation. "Lower the boats," Vance roared. "She is a big one." The thrill of the hunt overrode our unease. We scrambled into the whaleboats, 3 of them. I commanded the lead boat. My harpooner was a Kanaka named Queequeg, not the one from the book, though he knew the story and hated the name. He was the best iron thrower in the fleet. We pulled hard, the oars biting the water, closing the distance to the gray shape cresting the swells. It was immense. That was my first thought. We were used to whales that looked like floating islands. But this didn't move like a whale. A whale rolls. This thing cut. Its back was a broad highway of scarred gray skin, rough like sandpaper. There was no dorsal fin visible yet, just a long, tapering expanse that seemed to go on forever. "Steady," I whispered. "Wait for the flank." We glided in. Queequeg stood at the prow, the heavy iron harpoon balanced in his hand. He was a statue of concentration. We were 20 feet away. The water around the beast was boiling with its wake. "Give it to him," I yelled. Queek hurled the iron. It flew true, striking the gray mass just behind the pectoral area, but instead of the wet thud of sinking into blubber, there was a jarring clack, the sound of metal striking rock. The harpoon bounced off. The skin was too thick or too hard. The beast stopped. It didn't dive, it didn't run. It simply stopped moving. The momentum of our boat carried us right up alongside it. I looked down into the water, and the eye looked back. It was an eye the size of a dinner plate, devoid of any white. It was a pit of absolute blackness, lifeless yet seeing everything. It rolled in its socket to focus on us. A cold shock went through me that I can feel to this day. That wasn't a fish. That was a mind. "Back oars?" I screamed. "Back, back." The water erupted. The creature didn't just turn, it thrashed with a speed that defied physics for something of that mass. The tail, a vertical scythe of cartilage, 20 feet high, rose from the water and smashed down. It missed our boat by inches, but the displacement wave nearly capsized us. Then the dorsal fin rose. It kept rising. 3 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet of scarred, triangular death. It cut the water like a sail. The creature circled us. It was studying the geometry of the threat. "It is a shark," the oarsman named Miller whispered, his voice trembling. "God Almighty, it is a shark as big as the ship." The creature submerged. The water smoothed out. We sat drifting, hearts hammering against our ribs, turning in circles, waiting for the strike. Silence returned. Then the second boat, commanded by the second mate, Mr. Starbuck, vanished. There was no warning. One moment the boat was floating 50 yards to our port. The next, a gray mountain erupted vertically from beneath it. The jaws were open, a cavern of pink gum and rows of those terrible shovel-sized teeth. The boat didn't just break, it shattered into toothpicks. Men were thrown into the air like ragdolls. The jaws snapped shut with a sound like a cannon shot. I saw Starbuck fall into the churn. He was screaming, reaching for a piece of wreckage. The creature fell back into the water with a splash that swamped us. The sea turned red instantly. "Pull," I roared. "Pull for the ship." We rowed with the desperation of the damned. We could hear the screams of the men in the water being cut short one by one. There was no helping them. To stop was to die. We saw the fin cutting through the debris field, moving with terrifying precision. It wasn't frenzied. It was efficient. It was cleaning the table. We reached the Oshana and scrambled up the nets. Captain Vance was on the quarterdeck, his face the color of ash, holding a long gun, a heavy caliber rifle used for sharks. He fired into the water, but the bullets just skipped off the surface. "Get the boat up," he ordered. We hauled the davits. As my boat cleared the water, the ship shuddered. It was a heavy grinding impact that threw us to the deck. The ship, a 300-ton brig, listed 10 degrees to starboard. "It is ramming us," the cooper yelled. "It is trying to sink the ship. Man the pumps," Vance shouted. "Get the bomb, Lance. Bring up the powder kegs." The Oshana was sturdy, built to smash through Arctic ice, but she groaned under the assault. The creature struck again, this time at the rudder. The wheel spun wildly, breaking the helmsman's arm. We were dead in the water. I grabbed a bomb lance, an explosive projectile fired from a shoulder gun. I ran to the rail. The water alongside the hull was foaming. The beast was there, rubbing its flank against the wood, scraping off barnacles. And planking, it was testing the hull strength. I leaned over. I could see the silhouette of the head, blunt and massive. I aimed for where the neck would be on a whale. I pulled the trigger. The lance entered the water and struck the creature. The explosion was muffled, a dull whump that threw a geyser of water into the air. The creature thrashed, its tail slamming against the hull with enough force to crack 2 ribs of the ship's frame. But the bomb had hurt it. Blood, dark and thick, began to cloud the water. It surfaced for a moment. It lay parallel to the ship, and we saw the full length of it. It was longer than the Oshana, 60, maybe 70 feet of muscle and hate. It rolled on its side, and that black eye fixed on me again. It wasn't fear I saw there, it was recognition. Then it dove. We waited with bated breath for the next strike, the one that would break the keel. But it didn't come. The creature had calculated the risk. We were hard-shelled prey that stung. It decided we weren't worth the effort when there was easier meat floating in the bloody water behind us. We drifted for 3 days, patching the leaks. The carpenter found teeth embedded in the hull planks, whole teeth driven inches deep into solid oak. We pried them out with crowbars. We didn't speak of Starbuck or the other men. We didn't hold a service. The ocean had already buried them. We limped into Honolulu 3 weeks later. Captain Vance went straight to the harbor master's office. I don't know what he said, but when he came back, the logbook was gone. He handed me a new one. "We struck a reef," he said. His voice was flat, dead, a submerged reef in uncharted water. The boat was lost to a rogue wave. That is the truth we tell. "But the teeth, Captain," I said. "The bite on the whale." "Throw them overboard," he said. "All of them. If we tell them we fought a sea dragon, they will lock us in the asylum. If we tell them we ran from a shark, they will laugh. We are whalers, Mr. Thorne. We kill monsters, we do not get hunted by them." I obeyed, mostly. I threw the teeth I had pried from the hull into the harbor, but I kept the first one, the one from the dead sperm whale. I kept it wrapped in oilcloth in the bottom of my sea chest. Vance died a year later, drank himself to death in a tavern in New Bedford. The rest of the crew scattered. They couldn't stand the sound of the ocean anymore. I am an old man now. I live in Ohio, 1,000 miles from the nearest salt water. But I still wake up at night, sweating, smelling that copper scent of the blood-slicked sea. Scientists today, they talk about the Carcharodon Megalodon. They look at fossils and say, these went extinct 2 million years ago. They show diagrams in museums. They say the ocean is too cold for them now. They are wrong. I know what I saw. I know the intelligence in that eye. The ocean is deep, deeper than we can fathom, and we have only scratched the surface. There are canyons down there where the water is warm, where the old things sleep, and sometimes when the hunger gets too great, or when they want to remind us that we are not the masters of this world, they come up. So when you look at the ocean and you see that peaceful blue horizon, just remember it is a lid, and you do not want to know what is swimming beneath it, waiting for the lid to open. And please, if you made it this far, leave a like on the video. It helps keep the lights on, and God knows I need the light.